Okay. Okay, can you hear me now? I made sure that I have the proper settings. I know there's a slight delay. Okay, so it was my fault. I am so sorry, and I was talking here like crazy. Let me catch up real quick. So you start by getting a strip about double the size in width of the bangle that you want. And it has to be about 2 inches to 3 inches longer than the diameter of the bangle that you want. And then you put it a little bit overlapping, so it will come like this. And then you come and cut. You still have to have these touching, but do not join them. Leave them just touching. And then you make a tapered little sausage, and you put the tip here, and then bring it down pretty much parallel to the edge, to the bottom edge, not to the other edge. And make sure that it is well bonded to the background clay. Now again, there's some clay that was left when you cut this part. And this is what you use for the sculpting part of the feather. So you get it again through the thickest setting. Then cut it nice and straight. Thank you, Jacqueline. I am so sorry, but I had so many issues, technical issues. That's why I couldn't start on time. And I'm definitely going to ask for my money back from that software I had purchased the license for. Okay, now this will be pretty much half of a feather in length. And it will go only on this side of the tapering sausage. And the tapering sausage is pretty much the quill of the feather. Excellent. Yeah, it was my fault. Now I'm using Google Hangouts instead of that software. I should have never bothered with that, but I wanted to be able to broadcast both on Facebook and on YouTube. I guess I'm gonna just limit myself to YouTube, and that's it. All right, now we are going to sculpt this a little bit because we want just a pinch of a tip here. So you need something like this in shape. You can even get it thinner than this if you want. I would actually go just a pinch thinner. Kind of like this. Because you need support. Even if we are going to kind of cut these and ruffle them, they still need a little bit of support. So my glass is off. So see how you have the quill here? you set this right at a little bit, like 1 millimeter away from the quill, because you want to have room to smooth it down. So make sure that you place it well stuck on the base. And then you have a little bit of quill left here. Let me just make sure that I get all that I have the focusing proper. Okay, I got the autofocus. All right. Once again, I'm going to repeat what I did until now, and then I need to go real quick because I hear my doggy whining that he's out of water for some reason. So, in order to start this, you need a strip double the width of your bracelet and about 2 to 3 inches longer than the total diameter, the total circumference of your bracelet. And then you place it like this. And after you place it like this, because obviously it will be like this, you go with the blade and cut pretty much straight. You will be able, after this is all over, to go back and see, but this is just to catch you up so you can come up to par right now. After which you make sure that these two are touching. Don't blend them yet, but make them be touching. Then you make a tapering sausage for the quill of the feather, because here will be half a feather. And then you make this. And I will be back in just a minute. Okay, I am back. Be aware that there is about a 10 seconds delay between what I do here and what you see. And also about a 10 seconds delay between you typing in the super chat and me seeing what you just typed. So be aware of these delays. If you see that I don't answer right away on your questions there. Also, I'm removing my eyeglasses from time to time, and when I remove, I can only see that somebody typed something. I'll have to stop and put my glasses back and see what you said. It is very possible that in the future I will get one of you to Skype with me while I'm doing this whole live thing to make things easier, because I can hear better than see. So now we are smoothing the edge of the half feather into the quill. And if you wonder why didn't we do this first and put the quill later, it's because once you put this, it's very hard to figure out how far from the edge you are, and you end up with your feather going like this all over the place and maybe not getting enough support from the base bracelet, and then you start losing those little ends. Because even if you, I mean, polymer clay can get very sturdy, honestly. If you bake it long enough, of course, not long enough to get it yellowing, but if you bake it long enough, it can be fairly sturdy. The problem is that we are talking here bracelet. And that means that you might want to, okay, you might want to wear it even with a longer sleeve, or, you know, just be able to move your hand around your dress. So if you have too many thin things, especially with little pointy ends hanging out of your bracelet, they are going to get caught in your sleeve, in the fabric of your clothing, and all that. So you want not to have too many of those around. So see, there will still be a little bit, but not that much. So you gently bring this in, and then you taper it. It will be tapered toward the quill much more here in a little bit when we start sculpting. Now, I got questions about my sculpting tool. I have actually, I don't know, maybe like 3 dozens with various sculpting head options, but this is the one that I like the most. They are actually wax sculpting tools, and they are very, they have very, very delicate edges and points and all kinds of nifty features. One of these days I'll show you my whole arsenal of sculpting tools, but this specific one I actually sharpened a little bit this end, and it's my most favorite. It's not cutting, it's not sharp to cut, but it's actually thinner than my Xacto blade, and because of the shape, it makes things so easy to sculpt. Now, instead of this, of course, you can use your Xacto knife, or you can use, before I got these, what I actually did, and actually, let me get them because it will only take a minute and I can show you. I had a set of these wooden tools that you get. Now, be careful because these wooden tools, they are of several qualities. And if you find anywhere, look very closely for a very tight grain. And what I actually did, I took my Dremel and I changed the ends. See how I tapered this? Very, very thin. And the same on this one. I tapered, I used the Dremel, and then I used very, very fine sandpaper. And I was actually using these in sculpting art dolls. And I'll show you on this how well they work. They work beautifully. And you don't have to spend, I mean, believe me, I have those silicone tipped things, but my most favorite are still that wax carving tool and these. I use those silicone tipped ones only when I have to do something that's more like smoothing, especially when we are talking about little hands and feet and toes. But see how beautifully it works? If you take the time to work this tip nice and fine, it will work great. Hello, Connor. That was Connor saying hello. He wants attention. He's very spoiled. And see how you can put everything right under there. You don't need to set first the feather and then the quill. Now remember from the sculpting feathers tutorial, now we need to do, and we can actually do this with the Xacto knife because it's easier to get straight lines. We'll just do a few main lines, and we'll do a few main lines that are thicker, and then go ahead and do the thinner ones. And then this part, you can do it with whatever you want, including a toothpick. Again, with the toothpick, make sure that you smooth it out nicely. And just for scalding purposes, get the bit that you have from wrapping the jar. Hold it and set it under the hanging end of the feather to have sculpting support. You won't leave it there, obviously. So here you want to do a little bit of a dip wherever you put those lines. I am watching the chat to make sure that nobody says anything without me not noticing. And once you did this, make sure that they are nice and smooth. You can smooth them out a little bit with your finger because you don't want them to be harsh lines. You don't have harsh lines in feathers. But these are just reference points. From here on, we will be using, I hope you made what I call a needle pointy tool, because that is pretty much without equal when sculpting feathers. And I had mine right here. There it is. Now you just start exactly like in the tutorial. Do feathery things. You first do them near the quill, obviously. And make sure that you put a line right at in the middle of this dip. And as a piece of advice, if at this point you want to go with mica powder for metallic or with a chalk pastel, instead of using an acrylic paint afterwards, I suggest you do that. You can do that even before starting to sculpt, right after you place the feather. You can actually do that before placing the feather, only that you'll have to put a little bit of TLS to make sure that the feather adheres properly on the mica powder. And that's for a very simple reason. When clay is covered with mica powder or with chalk pastel powder, you don't leave any more fingerprints. So it's a win-win thing, because you don't have to worry about fingerprints. You'll still have to worry about, like nail prints, because I do that very often. So these are the thicker lines, and you get them all the way to the end of the feather without getting, or you can get all the way to the edge, but I'd recommend to wait a little bit. It's just my hands that don't work properly. If at any time you notice that I lose focus on the camera, say something in the chat and I will see that somebody said something. So just continue these lines. And these are a little bit thicker and deeper than the next ones that we are going to do. Because feathers are very feathery, obviously. So at this big of a feather, we need to do a lot of feathering. But as you can see, it seems like it's a lot of work, but it actually goes by very fast. Usually when I work on things like this, I just put on some documentary and I just listen. Sometimes I listen to Judge Judy. It's just too funny. Yes, it's human nature. People always like to see how other people are dumber than they are. Oh well. We are all evil and we are all good. Okay, once you did all the thicker and deeper lines, now you come and you do the thinner ones. And these ones you have just to slightly touch the clay. And once you have the mica powder on here, you will see how pretty this looks. It actually looks better when you sculpt over the applied mica powder than first sculpting and then applying mica powder. It gives a more natural metallic effect. But of course, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you want to get like a silvery thing or a coppery thing, it is much better to apply first the mica powder and then start sculpting. Also because that way the lines will not be filled with mica powder at all. So when you apply the acrylic for patina, it will have a place to go. While if you sculpt first, you might get some lines covered in mica powder. Now remember, if you are trying to achieve some kind of patina, it is the easiest way to do it, if you have the proper mica powder, is to make your clay similar in color to the patina color. I usually, when I try to go for bronze, I make my clay, I mix gold, regular gold, not the 24 karat. I'm talking primo here. I mix gold, let's say about 3 parts of gold, no, 4 parts of gold with 1 part of black and 1 part of jungle green. And remember, when I say 1 part, the easiest way of measuring is you get a sheet the same length, the same thickness of the clays, and then you get a cutter. And you just cut with the cutter. It doesn't matter the size of the cutter. It doesn't matter the thickness of the clay, provided that all the clay is the same thickness and you use the same cutter all over. That gives you the this many parts, this many parts. So for the mix I'm talking about would be 4 squares of gold for 1 square of jungle green and 1 square of black, all on the same setting on the pasta machine. So that way, when I do apply the bronze, doesn't matter if it's mica powder or if it's just brushed acrylic paint or even gilder's paste, I already have patina in all the indentations. For the copper patina, I usually mix a little bit of the Fimo turquoise is very close to the copper, real copper patina. Remember that turquoises get their blue color from copper oxide. So in order to get a very pretty copper patina colored background clay, you take like the Fimo, I think that they don't call it turquoise actually, but you know what I'm talking about. It's the purest turquoise color. You can use robin's egg in souffle, and I think that there's one in, I forgot the name of the one in Primo, but the Fimo one has the closest color to everything. I think it's the Fimo Soft. And you get that, and then you get some peacock pearl and bright green pearlescent, and you make a mix of that, half and half. And then you marble it with the Fimo turquoise. You know, just the plain marbling. You don't even have to marble it, just rip little bits and pieces and then mix them and then smoosh them together. And that way, when you do your sheet of clay, you have the exact copper oxide patina color on your clay. Okay, so this is pretty much the sculpting of the feather. I am not going to do the ends until everything on this side is done. So this side and a little bit of this need a little bit of smoothing because you don't want your bangle to be just straight and rough like this. Another thing that I did in the very beginning, you will be able to see when you watch this, after it gets uploaded, the recording gets uploaded, because this is a double thickness. So the thickest setting on the pasta machine doubled. You don't really have a reason to go and do a backing, a pretty backing. So what I did, I pretty much crumpled the, I can remove this now. I crumpled the aluminum foil on the jar, and when I placed the clay for the bracelet, I kind of pressed it a little bit, and that way it already gave texture on the back of the bangle, so I don't have to worry about that. Now that other edge was the fold, so it's much easier to do, but this one you have to be very careful and smooth it out nicely. You can even move it a little bit and replace it. Just to have a pretty smooth edge here. And yes, we won't keep all this sharp thing here. We'll trim it out. But yeah, now on this part, you can place more feathers if you want. I generally like my my half feather bracelet relatively simple, and I'll show you a beautiful effect. So you have your half feather on that side. On this side, you come on this side, and with the toothpick that I don't have here, because I told you to get a toothpick, but I didn't get one, you do a little bit of just this. You know, just little traces. It makes the bracelet so much elegant just with this. And you can come back and do some more of the... Just make sure that you start right under the quill, because you only want to give it a little bit of texture here. But yeah, I was asked, how do I come up with all these ideas? Well, I love to watch all kinds of documentaries, and yeah, I've been artsy all my life, and I did take quite a bit of classes in fashion design, but as a general idea, I'm inspiring myself mostly from all kinds of ethnic. I like studying from various points of view, various cultures, and the jewelry is a mode of expression of very many things, of psychology, of religion, spirituality, and understanding of the life around a reality of life events. The jewelry and general designs and adornments that are used in a culture tell you a lot about that culture. Okay, now we have pretty much, let's say, 2/3 of the bracelet done, and the other one, we have here a blank thing. You can leave it blank, and it will make a nice metal thing, or you can go ahead and texturize it. You can use, remember, my little raspberry bead, or you can use a brush, or you can use even a texture sheet, applying it very gently, or sandpaper, or you can actually put here various little buttons and stamps. Like I had a little stamp here that I don't have anymore. Or see, I made all kinds of, I'll show you in a second. I have the habit of making all kinds of stamps and all kinds of things. Oh, here's my little stamp, my little button stamp. This one. See, the Pardo has this beautiful packaging that it's so easy to keep things in. So I made this first. I made all kinds of tribal little drawings. I'm trying to see if it focuses properly. And then from it, I just took little pieces of clay and I took the print of this. And I made them kind of triangular shaped. Not with the hand, my hands being the way they are right now, it doesn't work too well. But I made them kind of not triangular, pyramidal shaped. So when I want to use them, I can just directly press them and get the imprint of the little tribal petroglyph. These are called petroglyphs in archaeological. So see, I can get one of these, and they are very easy to make. You just use your needle pointy tool and something to make dots. So at this point, if I want to go very tribal on this, I can just take one of these and give it a few imprints. And get this other one and go on the other edge. And it makes it look very tribally. I can get a third one. If you want to see these closer, I can actually, if you want, take a photo and just put it on my blog so you can have an example, so you can make your own. What is this? It's a little different one. Let me see if I have room. And see, now I have all kinds of tribal-y things here. All over the place. It's like a little texture. I hope you can see it. Now let's get rid of the part of that very pointy area, because we don't need it that sharp. You can just cut the sharper tip. And I said before that if you want, you can use those thick jump rings, because the way that this will hold together, because you know the polymer clay bracelets, when you make them as a cuff, it's a good idea to put a chain or something. So what you can do to make something look prettier, I'll show you separately, not on the directly on the bracelet. But in order to make a chain hole for a cuff look better, what you can do, it's either you take a small ball like this, especially when you imitate metal and you're trying to, or on steampunk, that works beautiful too. You flatten it like this, and then you place it on the spot where you'll have your chain going through. And then you take a small cutter, which in my case is just an old pen thing, and you just cut straight through the middle of it. And now you have a nice, and of course you'll put some metal looking stuff on this. Or another way of doing this, you get, these are the thicker jump rings. You can make your own with like 16 gauge wire, and you just press it in, and then you get a different cutter, which in my case it's another piece of broken pin, and you just cut the middle of the, right in the middle of the jump ring. And sometimes you cut wrong when you have bad hands, but just clean this up really nice. And then you have another pretty opening for your chain. So it's up to you how you want to do it. Of course, you can do just a plain round opening. I personally prefer to do these. So if you use one of these jump rings, make sure that it kind of matches, think what color of chain you will be using, and I think if it matches the color that you're using on your bracelet. So what I'm going to do first, before applying mica powder, is to make sure that everything here is nice and smooth, and then smooth a little bit this end. Just pinch it up. And then decide whatever mica powder you want to use. I think I will be going with what's called sunset gold, but it's actually a bronze. I don't know why they call it sunset gold. And no, we are not doing this until we put the mica powder on. If you're going to use acrylics, then just wait for a few minutes for me to put the mica powder, and then you can do those edges, and then you will cover them with acrylic. But as a general idea, I'd suggest that you get it depends. If you want to patina with acrylics, and then use a bright color, whatever color you want to end up with. If you want to patina with, oh God, what I was trying to, if you're trying to patina and use waxes on top of it to give it a different aspect, then use a darker color. In my case, I plan on using the German silver in the gilder's paste on top of this. So that is why I'm using a darker colored patina, mica, because when I will put the German silver on top of this, I will grab it in a minute and show you what I'm talking about. And I will just brush just the highlights with the German silver. It will make a pretty contrast. You see that I've chosen a dark brown. That is pretty much how old bronze looks like, bronze brass. And that makes it so I won't really need a lot of acrylic patina on it. I'm still looking, and I guess nobody has any questions. Remember that you can ask me questions. And in this area, you can come, because I wasn't able to press too hard because of my hands issues, but I will come back with a little ballpoint ball stylus, and I will enhance these little stamps I put there. We are almost done. Because this I don't have to do, the enhancing, I don't have to do it live. And I will post a photo of the finished. Actually, if you want, I can make a very short video with completely finishing the piece after it's baked. I think that it would be more interesting. I am not putting yet the ring. I am going to do that here in a little bit, but I am not putting in the ring yet. That would be the very last thing I'm doing. And see, I didn't insist on too much smoothness because I still want a little bit of a hammered, battered metal look. If you want to have a regular feather look on something else, because you can do the regular feather look with the chalk pastels, and then by all means smooth out the edge of the bangle some more. Okay, somebody has something. Hold on. Let me get my eyes on. Yeah, I will do that. Because it shouldn't take more than like 5 minutes. And you can look forward to it for tonight. As soon as this bakes, I'll let it cool off and then just tape it. And I'll do it talking, so I don't have to do any kind of editing to it. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with the mica powder. You will have to do the inside. And the inside, you'll have to do it with acrylics because it will happen after it's baked, obviously. Now, you have to be aware of the fact that I am holding my head very far away from this, because as you know, the mica powders can be inhaled and can be dangerous to your lungs. That is why I'm always using these paper towels whenever I'm using mica powder, because I don't want any kind of little powder bits flying around. Okay. Make sure there's no more questions. Okay. And now just grab the Xacto knife and push this a little bit trim this a little bit under. So the bangle will end in the half feather. There's enough mica powder here to cover everything. And then you can start doing a little bit of ruffling. Remember the thing about the half plume? We are not going to completely half plume it, but just give it a little bit of dimension. Make sure that you cut following any of the lines, more superficial or less superficial, that you've drawn there. You don't do this until the almost very last moment, because as you handle the thing around, you might mess these up. So once again, make sure that you follow the lines inside. I'll be feathering more at the base of the quill. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. See, I honestly think that half of the stuff that is offered to us is stuff we don't really need. And 90% of the things for polymer clay is obscenely overpriced. I mean, for goodness sakes, for most of us, it's a hobby, not a way of life. Don't have to skin me alive just for a texture sheet. And then the other thing is that sometimes, and I find it is kind of hilarious in a way, but it is fairly, I mean, I don't know how to tell you. I've been in the business world for a long time before I got disabled. So I know a lot of tricks. And for me, it's very obvious when somebody pays in order to get their product kind of pushed on people without actually saying that it is a paid thing. Or they would make a gift to someone with a YouTube channel with a lot of subscribers. And then you see that someone starting to use the same and the same and the same product all over and over again until you're like, okay, dude, can't you do something else? And that kind of creates a fad. Oh, yes, we all need this paint because look at all the pretty effects. When you can do the same effects with something that costs 10 times less, you know? But everybody gets all excited about that specific paint or that specific foil or that specific, well, textures, not really. You can make your own, but I still think they are overpriced. Especially what really irritates me is that 99% of the textures that are on the market are freaking ugly. And they are just trying to push them on you. It's so hard to find a pretty texture. I don't need all kinds of geometrical shapes that are big enough to be used as a wall stencil. You know, honestly, you can find the prettiest, what I found out, the prettiest textures are from the Russians. They seem to have a really nice knack for that. I've seen a few on Etsy. They are still expensive, but you know, at least they are worth it. I do make my own. I mean, for goodness sakes, I have a texture that I always have bake and bend in the house for textures, and I've been known to go around with a little flat Tupperware with a piece of clay. So I might be in a store and just lift a texture off of something. But anyway, I got a texture of an oven mitt. Let me show you. I know it's horrible. It's horrible. Let me show you my oven mitt texture. I was one time just handling something out of the oven, and I noticed that there was a raised pattern on my oven mitt. So I just went ahead and I got a pretty texture out of it. So yeah, this is bake and bend. And this is what's awesome about it. Just waiting to see if you can see properly. It's a little flowery thing. This is from an old, this is one of my stealing texture things. I was in a Goodwill and I saw this texture on one of those old purses. So I had the clay in the flat Tupperware thing in my purse. So I went ahead and I got the texture. And I doubled, like this is from an old plastic crappy texture sheet that I took I don't even know if I still have it. And this one also, I had these, oh God, I think they were like 20 years old. I don't even think I still have them. And they were practically unusable. So I just went ahead and I used bake and bend and got this. Then I doubled all my little texture sheets that I have. And I did see the negative of all the stamps that I have, pretty much. And then I'm in the habit of getting all kinds of, see, this is the little texture made with the ball stylus. This is the negative of it. That's something that you can use for the turquoise. And then I make some of them, I make them myself, like, oh, it's somewhere in here. I made an awesome crinoid stamp. If you don't know what crinoids are, they are these sea coral-like creatures with beautiful tentacles, but then when they die and they fossilize, they have absolutely gorgeous skeletons in the fossils. And I intend to make a piece with fossils. So I made my own crinoid fossil. I'll show you how cool it looks. I mean, I'm so proud of this one. So proud. Can you see it? I tried to get it deep enough. This is how a crinoid fossil looks like in the fossil thing. Yeah, with the ball stylus sheet, I just used all the ends that I had. And then I had another one made a while ago that was just made with the end of a paintbrush handle and a pencil. Then I have this that I just took out of this, and sometimes I use this as a texture. And you can find textures all around you. I think that Giphy art is still on. You might want to check it. That's how it's named, Giphy, GF art, GF art. That's how it's named. Okay, let's get back to this so we can wrap this up. So now you kind of figure out where you want. Let's see, you can feather this right before putting it in the oven. That's when you go ahead and feather it some more. Not just as yet, because you'll still be handling a little bit. So now you want to figure out about when you want, where you want your chain to be, so it would hold this. Make sure that they didn't get stuck together. Even if they do, you can still use the Xacto knife to separate them once it's baked. So try and figure out about where you want your chain to be. And I think I'm going to want it to be here and here. So that looks pretty good. And I'm going to use thin rings, not the thick ones. Because I don't think the thick ones would look good on this. Another nifty thing, see, I avoided that, to buy that, I forgot, $14, $17 ball stylus set from Fiskars, because I was like, oh my God, it's so expensive and I only need the big ball one. And finally, I got one of those Hobby Lobby, they had them at Hobby Lobby, and I got one of those 40% off coupons. And it has this. That is so awesome. This is the most awesome tweezer thing that I've ever had. See how precisely you can work with it? And I will use just, is this one big enough? No, it's not big enough. I need one bigger. This should be good. And there we go. Okay. So this is pretty much it for now. I will ruffle these right before putting it in the oven. And then I will tape the finishing of this. Okay? Thank you for being with me. I guess I went a little bit overboard. But, oh well, and sorry for all the technical difficulties. And I promise you, next Sunday it won't happen, because I will not be using that software anymore. I am using Google Hangouts. Okay? Thank you for being here with me, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I will post the finishing of this, I don't know, in about an hour and a half, an hour and a half, something like that. Because it will take about 40 minutes to bake this, then about 10-15 minutes for it to cool off, maybe 10 minutes for me to finish it, and then how long it takes to upload. Okay? Thank you so much, and I'll see you next Sunday. Goodbye.